Hi, I'm Tammy Greenberg, Senior Vice President for Business Development at the RAB. Welcome to Radio on Main Street, the podcast all about radio. Our latest podcast series comes to you from the 2023 ANA Masters of Marketing Conference, where chief marketing officers, brand stewards, advertising directors, research providers, ad tech, and media professionals all come together with a laser focus on growth. The conference showcased creative thinking, strategies, and best practices that leading brands have implemented to drive growth by meeting and exceeding their consumers' needs. RAB had the opportunity to chat with many attendees about their businesses, their marketing goals, the issues that they're most focused on, and of course, their thoughts about radio. In episode number 7 of Radio on Main Street at the ANA Masters of Marketing, Dave Casper, RAB's Senior Vice President of Digital Services, chats with Raquelle Zuzarte, Founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Equity Project for All. Raquelle just recently published an article to WARC entitled, "What's AI Got to Do with It?" In this piece, she shares that AI is technology that drives human progress and introduces us to a new way of practically looking at it for business and marketing application.
All right, so Raquelle, most of the time when I sit down to have a conversation about AI, it devolves into, you've had these conversations, I know you have, where it's all about dystopia and when are the robot overlords going to take over, that sort of thing. So It's really a treat to sit down and talk to somebody who is thinking about AI from a business-centered standpoint, thinking about how these tools might affect the work that we do day to day, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And in fact, the theme of the conference here is Force for Growth, Force for Good. And as you point out in this article that you've just written, AI has the potential to be an incredible force for good if we choose to use it that way. So you just published an article in WARC. It's titled, "What's AI Got to Do with It?" And you suggest a new term for us to start thinking about, AIHI. Can you talk a little bit about where that term comes from? First of all, what is it? And then where does it come from?
The term really has been inspired by history. When we look at the history of human progress, whether it was the invention of fire, the invention of electricity, all of those were tools that led to great acts of human ingenuity, human imagination, whether it was our ability to have power in our homes or build. AI is the new electricity. It is really a force that is a tool for humans to take control of, to shape, to dictate. And AIHI stands for Artificial Intelligence for Human Ingenuity.
Okay.
And the reason that the two terms come together is because we want to put AI on a pedestal today, and we give it a spot by itself. It is not a spot by itself. It's always about what the technology can do to drive human progress. And so by linking artificial intelligence for human ingenuity, it keeps reminding us that whenever we are looking at how to use that technology, from early, new product development choices to robotic operating rooms, it's all about how it's lifting us as humans to imagine more, to aim higher, and do better.
Do you think, do a lot of people get that wrong? I mean, do they go into AI with the mindset, do they miss that piece, that second part of it, the human ingenuity part of it?
I think a lot of people realize that there's going to be a human touch at every step in the AI process, particularly when you think about the inputs that go into the machines and, designing and creating the large language models. It's going to take a human to create that. And I think there's an acknowledgement that there is a human touch across, but very quickly, we've seen in conversations where that human ability to make impact and to keep it onto its power gets lost as the outputs come out.
There's a disconnect, right?
Absolutely. Right. So there's this, perception that the machine is going to get smarter than us, which, by the way, it could in AGI and in the future, and that we are going to lose control. And the only way we keep control is by realizing that ultimate vision, which is this is driving human ingenuity. So doing and using and making choices around AI that always make us ask the question, how does this lift the human output? How does it actually force us to think more ambitiously, more creatively, more strategically? If it's not allowing us to think that way with the human element, then we have to really go back and ask exactly what is the problem to be solved.
We're going to link to the article in the comments section, so if
Yeah.
you're watching this on YouTube, it's down below, and if you're watching or listening to it from the website or from Apple iTunes, wherever
Yeah.
you get your podcast, there'll be a link in the below the clip. So be sure to click into the article. But let's get into that, because one of the great things about what you wrote is you kind of laid out a framework for how to take that idea of AIHI,
Yes.
and translate that into a model that I think companies and people and brands can work with. They start thinking about how to deploy this within their organizations. And you
Right.
start with the 5 C's. Can you talk about the 5 C's?
Yeah, so that's a very important part that every organization has to remember. You start with people. Of course, you'll have your technologists and your AI, ML engineers, but you need to start with your people in terms of how does human ingenuity show up? How does human ingenuity show up in the workplace? Mm-hmm. And are you laying the foundation to help it get ignited? So the 5 elements that we say are critical is first the fact that human ingenuity means that it allows us to go to a higher plane of creativity. Human ingenuity is reflected by your creativity. It's reflected by your ability to have better connections in terms of cognition, in terms of how you're looking at data, how you're understanding data, so your intelligence, your cognition goes up. It allows you to have more capabilities because you're suddenly now spending time on the higher order critical thinking and the higher order more challenging problem solving, because some of the very automatic, rule-based processes can be done now by a machine.
Yeah, getting to the solutions faster.
And getting to better and bigger and more ambitious solutions.
Right.
So that capacity also increases. You can do more, so your capabilities increase, your capacity increases, and it's all grounded in a strong culture that really values the human spirit of trial and error,
Right.
of the sense of let's try something new, and the word optimism is a key part of your people strategy. Because people are confused, they are asking questions, some might be scared, what does it mean for my job if I'm a content creator?
Of course, right.
And you want to be able to address that head on. Like, you want to be able to speak eloquently and very transparently about those topics and say, listen, you are now a fantastic copywriter or creative designer, and this is going to take you to a next level of performance that your brain has not got used to yet.
Right. I thought the recent writer's strike was such a brilliant illustration of that, where you had legitimate concerns, right, on the part of content creators, wondering how is this going to affect my livelihood, and to put those fears at ease and talk about how we can build a culture, pulling out one of your 4 C's within our organization that allows for this to happen in a way that really does drive results for the organization or the company.
Absolutely, and I think today it's a very linear process. In terms of the script development, there's a potential of an idea that comes through a production company or a creator, a creative writer, the writing room, etc. This is going to allow you to come up with different permutations and sort of play in the creative black box that is really your brain, and now you've just got some help in terms of how to think about creative ideas, where the connecting dots can be, what new characters you can bring in, and then, as Isaac Newton once said, I stand on the shoulders of giants. We're going to stand on the shoulders of these, AI machines that are going to give us a base raw material that's higher grade, higher impact, that then create human genius.
In your article, you cite a couple of examples, case studies, and you talk about Netflix and how Netflix has really, used AI to its advantage, and they have been for quite some time, starting with sort of algorithmic AI
Yes.
to help viewers select different programs, and then
Yes.
now really growing into content creation. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that case study a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, a lot of people say, oh, AI, November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT
Right,
came out. But
right.
the fact is, we've been living with AI for decades. And more recently, when we go onto Google and do a search, that's driven by AI, Siri, Alexa. And certainly Netflix has been a company that really reflects the power of how AI can come across, firstly, in terms of its product, thinking about their product offering, the recommendation engine that tells us you watch this, so therefore you might also like this, in the way that it shows up when it comes in terms of its process, because of the way that they look at the writing and production and distribution process, it's infused in that, but also in terms of how they are culturally kind of very focused on metrics for people. It's a very high performance culture at Netflix. And again, that's driven by understanding and looking at the power of AI to drive that human performance. So from a people perspective, a process perspective, a product perspective, and then the fourth P that I talk about is performance, is how are you understanding, curating, summarizing, reporting, and distributing how you're performing. And so it's a quintessential example of what I call the AI intelligent enterprise. And I know that as companies think about, where do we start? The first thing I'll say is start with people.
Right.
Ask the question of what's the pulse check of how your people are feeling, educate them, encourage them to experiment, give them the rules of the game within your industry. In healthcare and financial services, there are certain very specific government regulations. In a lot of industries, data integrity is critical. So define that sandbox. Get them empowered to try new things and reward, test and learn, and reward failure. And when there's something new that happens when you've tried that, may not been the original objective, but the learning is the igniter to future success.
I always talk with my team about guess, test, and learn.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have the right answer.
Yep.
It's really important to test it and to learn from whatever the outcome is,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
I was so glad to see in your article that you kind of, as you were writing about this, you went back to sort of the basics, saying to start with, like the very first thing brands and companies should be thinking about is getting your data house in order. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that it's very, very tempting to obviously jump
right in, right?
Jump right in. And the fact of the matter is, this is an example of a situation where it's not this or this, it's this and this. You kind of got to jump and take a steady approach. A little bit of an ambidextrous leader is needed here, because at the first part, it's like, make sure that you are A++ on the way that you're managing and optimizing your data today. So understand all the places that your data currently lives. Understand its veracity, its velocity, its volume, and ensure there's a lot of variety too across all those data sources. And then ask yourself, have I connected, even without the use of AI, just through autonomous rule-based algorithms, which don't have to be necessarily AI, have I optimized that? Have I used it perfectly in terms of my customer relationship management, in terms of my content optimization? Do that simultaneously while you are doing what we call kind of the incremental, which is basically saying, tap into all the inbuilt AI tools on your current platform investments.
Right.
So Google Workspace, Bard, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Salesforce Einstein, and HubSpot AI, just to name a few. Like, make sure your teams are tapping into those. Use them. Create use cases. What's working, what's not. Besides those, there's also, as we know, native AI platforms like OpenAI and Anthropic and others, and you need to know how those fit in. But the only way you know is by doing it.
Right.
And having one person on the team encourage others, almost be the ambassador who actually goes in first, tries things out, and then encourages others to try it very quickly. Speed is of the essence here. We need companies to start learning, get on that learning curve. It's very steep, but get on it fast.
Right.
Because otherwise your competitors are going to, basically beat you to the game. And from that incremental, the next stage we talk about is these 1 to 2 pilot projects I talk about in the article, which is like 1 to 2 quick hits, high visibility.
Yeah, I thought
hits.
that was interesting that you were saying, okay, don't jump into this thinking that you're going to change your entire company, but pick a starting point, a manageable starting point, and do that project and see how it turns out.
Exactly, and you're doing it in the meantime while you're still using your platforms that are supporting you, whether it's Google or Meta or Adobe. But have 1 or 2 quick hits with your pilot projects, and then everyone then almost like learning a language. You go from beginner to intermediate, then you have the confidence to go for the bigger conversations, right? The bigger opportunities, which is what I talk about as transformational. Examples of that, which were like cross organization and had major impact on the operating model of businesses, as the Google Omnicom partnership, where there was a major data and marketing tech optimization. Another example that's around messaging and product delivery was the Michelob Ultra Dreamcaster example, with the blind man being able to follow the basketball game in Braille.
Yeah, so I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah,
what a creative use of that technology.
And that is that's the part that gives you goosebumps, because you're saying, wow, I have now taken my creativity and data to a level where I can dream of interactions and engagement with my client that wasn't possible before. The next level is monumental. We're not there yet. That's what we're talking about, artificial general intelligence, and where the possibility that the machine might get smarter than us. As long as we're still in control, it can be smarter than us. So that's the thing we have to really understand, is that we control the machine. The machine gives us feedback. We get smarter. We get the machine to be smarter, and the cycle continues.
Well, we're at the ANA Masters of Marketing Conference. It's still a little early here. It's basically just halfway through the first day, but you've been around a bit. What kind of a vibe are you getting? Do you see a lot of companies that are engaged, in AI and looking for how they might use this to create solutions for their companies and their brands?
Yes, I've seen, in the presentations this morning, we had P&G, Crayola, Hilton, Mars, and I saw examples of AI showing up in terms of their delivery of customer value, whether it was in terms of the interaction with guests and understanding their needs with Hilton, or looking at families and instilling the love for creativity with Crayola. It's showing up. And I think that is actually really, really encouraging. And for our craft of marketing, we've just been given a supersonic rocket ship.
Right.
And I always love to quote Steve Jobs, who said that the personal computer is the bicycle for the mind. And I talk about in the article where AI is the rocket ship for the mind. It's very powerful. It has high speed, and it is high risk.
So when you come back to this conference next year, what are you hoping to see?
I am hoping to see a redefinition of what we mean by marketing and creativity. I am hoping to see a level of deployment and execution in the field that allows us to look at our base metrics, let's say from a year ago, and surpass it greatly because of this rocket fuel. So faster results, higher level customer value being achieved. And I'm really hoping to see a level of gravitas among marketers around their fluency and capability to understand and speak the language of marketing, the language of technology, and to see through all of this great impact also on our purpose and our social impact deliverables, because this is going to allow us to do that, to dream the bigger dream, to achieve the higher numbers, and to grow with confidence.
The article is called What's AI Got to Do With It? It's in WARC this week. Again, there's a link with the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations on a terrific article. It's a great read, and I would encourage everyone to take a look.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you to the RAB. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, AI is technology that helps humans to imagine more, aim higher, and do better. Raquelle simplifies a sometimes really scary and confusing technology and offers us invaluable advice. When looking to use AI, ask yourselves the question, how will this lift the human output? Does it address the challenge that you're looking to address? Create use cases and understand what's working and what's not. And above all, get on the learning curve to understand what's out there and how to use it. So get started by clicking the link to Raquelle's WARC article wherever you are listening to today's podcast.
If you'd like to learn more about radio and its many benefits, we invite you to visit us at rab.com, or you can email us directly at askrab@rab.com. Until next time, it's Radio on Main Street.